Hello and good afternoon, everyone. It's Sherry Sims, founder of Black Career Women's Network, and thank you for tuning in for another episode of Career Tip Tuesday. I am solo again this week. Makita is traveling, so it would just be me and you having our conversation today and answering all of your career questions today. So I know you know the drill. When you come in, let us know where you are tuning in from so we will know where you are. So, what we're going to be talking about today is going to be how to identify and navigate workplace personalities. One of my favorite things to talk about, and we do not talk about this enough, I will say. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because I think it's good for us to not only understand the people that we work with, but being able to identify individuals in the workplace and how their personalities do impact how we show up, how we engage, and even how we perform sometimes. So I think this is a great topic to really talk about and get into. All right, so let's get into it. So I've got 7 different tips and I've got some notes. So if you see me looking down, so I'm looking at my notes. But again, when you do come in, please let us know where you are tuning in from. Right. So the first tip I want to talk about is to learn to read the room quickly. And the reason why this is a great tip to kick it off with specifically is because whether you are, well, there's 2 reasons. One, if you are new to a workplace, say you started a new job with a new company, you don't know anyone. So it's good to read the room and read the room quickly. You want to observe how people interact. You want to lead and you want to respond and you want to know how to do those things, even if you're under some sort of pressure, right? Pay attention to the tone, body language, and how decisions are made when you are in these spaces, and be aware of, and I would say, honestly, to have the more that you are aware of these personality types, it helps for you to avoid landmines when it comes to understanding the personalities or even identifying potential allies. So I think it's one of the best reasons why you absolutely should learn to read the room and read the room quickly. Because if you don't, again, it's not that you won't be able to overcome it, but it just allows you to be able to deal with the individuals and even learn how to meet them where they are when you learn to read the room quickly. Tip number 2 is don't take the office politician personally, because there is going to be always one person that's driving a lot of the politics. Other people may fall in line with that. But this person is driven by influence. They're driven by power. They're driven by being able to wanting to play both sides. The best thing you can do is to stay cordial, document in your interactions with this person. You want to protect your reputation when you're around this individual, and keep your receipts, because you don't want to share too much with them, because they could be the individual that may steal, your content, steal your ideas. Trust is currency in the workplace. You want to be the one that's trustworthy, so you want to make sure you're identifying those people. So don't take it personally. They're just trying to get to where they are and step on any neck they can possibly step on to get there, but you still want to be able to identify them quickly. All right, tip number 3 is understand the silent saboteur. Now, the reason why this is a good one is because this person often shows up as supportive in public, but behind your back, they're undermining you in private. So what you want to do is build your credibility through your results of the work that you do. You want that to be seen. You want that to be known. You want to be able to so if something does happen where this person's trying to undermine you behind your back when you're not there, the other individuals they're sharing that with can speak to that otherwise, and that makes them look bad. So understanding a silent sabotager is someone that you absolutely need to read the room and identify who that individual could be fairly quickly, but still stay focused on your goals. Stay focused on your goals. Let your work speak louder than the whispers. And what I mean by that is the right people need to know the work that you do, so this silent sabotager can't come in behind your back and undermine that. I remember when I worked for this company, I was a recruiting manager, and I had a team of 3 individuals that reported to me. And I had also had someone who we really actually were colleagues. they also work to support the team as well. And I saw them as an individual who really was, like I said, a colleague. Well, I'm thinking we had a great relationship. Well, come to find out, he's telling all these other individuals that are leaders within the organization that him and I didn't get along, and was saying these things about me that weren't true in terms of, I don't like to collaborate, to listen to ideas, and all that was not true. I was very supportive, very enthusiastic for things that he wanted to do. Was always championing for that. So I thought, how in the heck is this the opposite? And how I found out is that another individual was like, well, how are things going on with you and him? Because, we heard it's pretty tense between you two. And I'm thinking, what? So again, when you are in this space, you have to pay attention to what other people are saying, could be saying, and when you're not in the room. Thank goodness that this individual came to me or mentioned something, because I thought I didn't even know that was going on. Thank goodness also too that there were some individuals who also knew about what he was saying, that was like took it with a grain of salt because they knew who he was, his character, and other people wasn't. They didn't really know him. Were like, really, is that going on? So again, understanding and making sure that you are positioning yourself with the right people who are not only influential but can speak to your work when you're not in the room. So don't want to spend too much more time on understanding the sabotager, but if you have experienced something like this, put it in the chat box. We want to hear about it. We want to know. All right, I'm going through these pretty quickly, so I know we've got some time. Number 4 is to communicate effectively with the dominator. Now you're like, who is a dominator? This is the person that is overly assertive. They sometimes can come off as intimidating, right? They could be a colleague, or it could be a leader that's above you, or, maybe a peer. But when you're dealing with them, just be clear and concise and confident, right? You don't need to let them know that they know how to ruffle your feathers a little bit, because their directness, really, if you match it, I would say if you match the directness, then it's going to kind of calm that down. But do it without shrinking, okay? Do it without shrinking. Do it without, diminishing your confidence or doubting yourself, right? You just, come up in your mind, say, I know this, you know what I'm saying? And come back and make sure that you are also communicating effectively and being assertive and giving it right back to them, okay? The reason why this is important, because it sets the tone for mutual respect, okay? There is a saying that I had with the cohort that I work with here locally, and there's a saying, and they put it on a t-shirt for me. It says, can we talk about this with mutual respect and understanding? And I'm probably gonna wear the t-shirt. We'll talk about that on another Career Tip Tuesday. Hey, TW, TYW. Thank you for tuning in from Tallahassee. And so I think, it's important to communicate effectively and with someone who tries to dominate, because again, there's someone who really is just trying to intimidate and kind of, and sometimes also can be a bully if they have the wrong type of character. So you have to be careful with them. Number 5 is nurture relationships with the quiet ally. And, a quiet ally doesn't have to be loud. Okay. They observe coworkers, they have influence more than what you realize. And what's nice about them is they know how to build rapport. They know how to collaborate when possible. They don't overlook people who they know that they need to work with and that can help them to get the job done. But a lot of times they may lead in the background because they're behind the scenes. They may not necessarily want to be one of the pick-me's, right? So pay attention to those people, because they're the ones that probably really have power and influence, and not really showboating it. Because a lot of times you're showboating and you don't have the power. You're just trying to flex like you do because you really want it and you're trying to gain it, but you don't really know how to go about doing it. So I think it's important to nurture the relationship with the quiet ally, because that's the person who more than likely is probably your subject matter expert at work, knows a lot, has the influence, has the pull, but knows how to collaborate, respects people, has that displays the right type of healthy workplace behaviors that are important, that contribute to healthy workplace cultures. Important to know that. And number 6 is protect your peace around toxic types. Can we spend a little time on this? And can I get an amen? Can I get an amen? I'm going to my notes for this one, because I wrote down a couple of things for these toxic types. For this one here, I think it's important to recognize a couple of things. All right. When we're talking about toxic behaviors, we have to recognize what those are. First and foremost, there are some people in the workplace that thrive off of drama. They thrive off of stealing credit for people's work. They like to manipulate and they want to minimize what you do so they can have what they consider maximum exposure, or using emotions as a weapon, right? When you are dealing with people who are toxic, you need to set boundaries as soon as you possibly recognize the behavior. You want to document your interactions just for yourself, because we always say documentation is a Black woman's best friend in the workplace. And you want to use your, I would say, your character, your diplomacy of who you are in the space that you are. You want to be able to manage that and protect your peace. Okay, protect your peace. So when it comes to dealing with toxic people, again, you set the boundaries. You make sure that you establish like how you expect the relationships to go. If you start to identify this toxicity there, address it, especially when especially if you know that it's going to impact who you are. Absolutely do that. And our last tip is our identifying power brokers and title holders. Now, what I like about you identifying power brokers and title holders is that not everybody with the title has real influence. I'm just saying, call a spade. It's real. You have people who want to have the title and think and put their self-esteem into having the title. Even sometimes executive assistants or office veterans or team leads, those are the ones who hold the ones with the power. I'm gonna say it again: executive assistants, office veterans, and that's like official vets, but the ones who've been around for a long time, and team leads. Those are the ones that typically will have the keys, the influence in the workplace. So you want to learn who actually makes the decisions, who really has the power, and who is building authentic relationships. Because again, the ones who, real power brokers may not necessarily have the title, and the ones who have the title sometimes ain't worth nothing. Okay. Hi, Diane. Thanks for watching. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. So absolutely. So the last one absolutely is identifying power brokers and title holders. And so I think it's hugely important to understand who they are and what they bring to the table. Now, another thing too, when we're thinking about, your communication style, the reason why I want to talk about this a little bit is because when you are dealing with separate individuals, sometimes we do have to adapt our approach and meet people where they are. Or if you're dealing with dominant personalities, you want to be confident and concise. If you're dealing with people who are gatekeepers and they may be really quiet about it or on the low about it, you want to build rapport with those individuals through trust, through consistency. You also want to match your tone and the timing of your conversations, the delivery to the individuals, and not just a message. Because again, communication is powerful. We do a whole workshop on communicating with power and intention. And again, how you show up in your communication says a lot. That's something to think about too, because we're going to talk a little bit and do a series on executive presence. And I think it's so important to think about your communication style and how that is perceived, and how it can be powerful if it is done the correct way. And so tailoring your communication style, which is another tip I should have put on here anyway, which I think is good. But another thing I want to also mention, I know I didn't put it in the 7 tips, but it's to label, don't judge. And what I mean by that is you want to label the personalities, right? The micromanager, the sabotager, who could be the ally, but you want to strategize on how you can work with them, right? Navigate them. You're not here to fix them because you can't fix them. But what you can do is have strategy to learn how to navigate and work with them and work around them. And then also making sure that you do a double check on your emotional intelligence, and so that way you can make sure that you are in the right place to be able to deal with the various types of personalities as well. And I think that's hugely important, because if you don't, that can also be an issue. When we talked about the first tip, which was learn to read the room quickly, we're talking about observing before you engage. If you have been listening to any of our Career Tip Tuesdays for the past couple of years, we always talk about paying attention to people that you work with, how they communicate, how they influence, how do they respond to authority, who's dominating specific conversations, who's always in the know, right? Who keeps things quietly moving in the background. When you observe these things, this is how you identify visible and invisible power that goes on in the workplace. One of the things that I love to talk about is power, privilege, and influence, or power positioning and influence in the workplace, because that's the stuff that we need to pay attention to. And sometimes we don't, as Black women, because we, one, don't want to play the game. Some of us have gotten smart and we're now doing it. Other of us still don't want to do it. Some of us don't want to because we don't know how. Other of us don't want to because we're like afraid that we don't know if we can get it right. But it's definitely something you cannot get around. Diane says all truth. That she said that's being called a real power broker, and that's an entire masterclass. Absolutely, Diana. Absolutely. And so I think, and thank you for watching from Toledo. I'm in Cincinnati. And so I think it's important to understand that. And so if you're just now tuning in, what we're talking about today is identifying and navigating workplace personalities. And just to do a quick recap while we still have a little more time. The first one is learn to read the room quickly, which is what we just got through talking about. Paying attention to the people that you work with, who's influencing, who's silently being able to navigate, who's in the know and gets the information. Tip number 2 is don't take the office politician personally. Again, that's an individual that you want to be able to understand. You want to understand and don't take what they're saying personally, but you want to be able to navigate them, document all the things you need to do in terms of being able to kind of really protect yourself when it comes to dealing specifically with them. And then when we're talking about them as well, there's somebody you have to, I hate to say it, but it's true. You got to be cordial. Watch what you say around them. Document. Just be aware. Don't share too much. Hold on to your receipts. Trust is in this space when you're dealing with them is currency. And the reason why that is for you, it is not necessarily for them. It's because it's about making sure that you kind of you watch your back when you're around them. Yes. Okay. 513. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Here, the 513. And it's hot here too, Diane. It's hot. All right. Tip number 3 is understand the silent saboteur. Okay. Just going back through these again while we still had a little bit more time. Again, this is the person that shows up as being supportive, a little fake, right? Because really, honestly, what they're doing is trying to undermine you. So what you need to do is continue to build your credibility, make sure you have the right relationship. So if they're behind your back, those other people can be like, you're lying. That's not how they act. That's not how they are with me. Or, if they're trying to sabotage your work, you're like, nope, that's not the type of work performance I get from them. Just making sure you understand that silent sabotager. They can come off as being very friendly, very helpful and supportive, but that's because they want the information so they can use it either against you or use it for what they're trying to take from you, so to speak. And then we've got to communicate effectively with the dominator. This is someone who is aggressive. They can be intimidating sometimes if you allow them to be intimidating. But when you're dealing with them, be clear and concise in your communication. Be confident. Match their directness so they can know that you're not to be played with. Don't shrink. And make sure your tone is a tone that's set for mutual respect. And like I said before, I have a saying, can we talk about this with mutual respect and understanding? You better believe if I'm dealing with the dominator, we're going to get that right. Okay. So again, I know it's hot in the 419 too. Girl, it's blazing here. Let me tell you, okay? Where else is it hot? Because I know it's just not hot over here in Cincinnati and Toledo, okay? So yeah, number 4 is that communicate effectively with the dominator. Now, if you all have any questions or if you are dealing with some of these characters right now in the workplace, please drop them in the chat. We want to hear, who are you dealing with right now that could be one of these characters? All right. I mean, I think that's important to know. All right. Tip number 5 or character number 5 is nurture relationships with a quiet ally. Again, this person probably holds a lot of power, doesn't have the title, but has a lot of influence, a lot of information, does their work well. They collaborate well with people. You build rapport with them. Don't overlook them because they could be somebody who's in the background. You may see them as like, oh, they may not have a lot of power and influence, but you shouldn't look at it that way. If there's someone who has a lot of knowledge and that can help you, again, helping each other, just build a genuine relationship with the person who's a quiet ally. Just cultivate an authentic relationship with that individual. And then number 6, protect your peace around those toxic workplace types. They can be horrible. again, with them, you got to be smart about it. You want to document, you want to document everything. You want to make sure that you are, know what these people thrive on. Okay. The gossip, drama, credit stealing, manipulation. Set the boundaries quick. Document the interactions. Protect your peace around those people, because more than likely, those are the ones that are going to cause the drama. And number 7 is identify power brokers and title holders. Again, last one. And again, that's, everybody with a title doesn't mean they're good. All right. And then sometimes people want to have those titles and take it, go to their head and take it and run with it. And again, the power brokers sometimes are always the people who may not even have those big high titles or influence, have a high level of influence, but they're amazing at what they do. All right. So here is our Career Smart tip. This is kind of overview of today's topic, which is identify, navigate workplace personalities. Every workplace has a cast of characters. Don't just survive them. Master how to navigate personalities is a power move. Okay. If you can navigate these personalities, it is a power move, and it builds your EI, which is emotional intelligence. It also builds your political savvy and your influence. All right. I cannot stress enough how important that is to think about. Diane says, all these tips are so great. Have you written a book about these corporate archetypes? Nope, I have not, but you're ahead of me, Diane. Yeah, I am working on something. I just don't want to talk about too much till it's got to get close. But yeah, I think it's important to identify these characters in the workplace, because they can really be they really can hinder us, right? I mean, again, if you're watching, or do you have some of these characters in the workplace? We actually have, and again, we have a workshop, what we call Communicating with Power and Intention, which we talk about identifying your communication style. But we also have another workshop that we do called Managing Workplace Politics and Culture. And then we break down these individual characters one by one, how to identify them, how to deal with them as well. Dawn said that she has a silent sabotager, will make one experience emotional incongruence. Emotional incongruence happens when someone's external expression, words, facial expressions, tone doesn't match their internal emotional state. This message, your mood don't line up. Yes, good point, Dawn. Absolutely. Because again, silent sabotagers will make this, they will. You gotta, that's a little sneaky something. You gotta be careful with them. But that's why I say you always need to pay attention to the people that you work with. Pay attention to workplace culture when things, we did a career tip Tuesday one time about organizational shifts and drifts. And we talked about how when corporate cultures change because the org structures and things are changing, and how people will also change with that. And what I mean by that is that, people that you thought were very collaborative and you work well with them, once they felt like their position was being threatened, start to change how they deal with the people they work with. So you have to be very careful and pay attention to the people that you work with. Diane says, now is the time. Okay. Yes, it is. I agree, Don. Don says, examples. I'm really happy for you. Said through the gritted teeth and the forced smile. And she says, oh, so sneaky. Yes, they are sneaky. Those 6 silent sabotagers is something else. And if you have to, and they will, and here's the thing about we think we could talk. I know I've said this already, and I'm getting all excited about talking about it. A silent sabotager is someone you really think you two are like co-work besties. Yep. You really think you are co-work besties, and really you're not. They're acting like they are because they're trying to pull from you what you're doing, so they can either copycat, steal it, and try to do it themselves, or go take credit for it, or just learn what you know and use it against you, man. So you have to really be careful about that. Oh, if they're too friendly of co-workers in the workplace, I hate to say that because it does sound like, oh my God, you're being defensive. Everybody's not out to get you. No, they're not. But you do have to be very careful about how people are cultivating a relationship with you and why. Okay. Because again, and here's the thing, this type of thing is exhausting as far as I'm concerned. Let's just call it what it really is. Having to identify people and what their characters are and what their motives are and all these things in the workplace. We should not have to go to work and do this. We are here at the job to use our gifts and talents to make a living and get paid to do it, right? And we should be able to work in healthy workplace cultures and get along with the people that we work with. We shouldn't have to navigate and identify and look for all these things, but unfortunately we have to. Okay. Don says, examples, I'm really happy for you, said with gritted teeth and for a smile. I know I had to bring this back up again, Don, because you're so right. I'm like, you're a little fake something. You know darn well you're not happy for me, but you're going to go ahead and act like you are. But then you already plotting and scheming behind closed doors how you want to, damage my credibility. Diane says it's a song written about that person's smile. Yes, backstabbers, the OJs, okay, because it does happen. And Deanne says, yes, I've been there. Yeah, I mean, and again, it's in one thing about it too is that for you, all of you young professionals who could be watching today, or if you go back and watch this replay, when you experience this the first time, you may not necessarily be aware of it. The whole goal is to help you recognize game so you can learn how to deal with it early on. So when you do level up in your career and you start to deal with people on different levels, you can quickly identify these personalities or these specific behaviors, and you'll know how to deal with them quickly. So again, it's always good to understand it, because that way, the sooner you do, the more you're going to be able to have the tools to be able to deal with those individuals and navigate these personalities in the workplace, so you can continue to perform at the level that you want to continue to perform at, and being able to stay on the track that you want to stay on for your career, and not have these small things derail or slow it down, or and you doing an inventory check on your own, should I say, your emotional intelligence and how you deal with things. My good friend Marsha Haygood, which is the co-author of The Little Black Book of Success, The Laws of Leadership for Black Women, one of her philosophies is strategy over emotion. So when you are starting to experience these types of characters in the workplace, it's important for you to think about what your strategy is and how you're going to deal with them, and not necessarily, and kind of compartmentalize your emotion and think logically about the strategy and how you're going to navigate and move around and work with these individuals. So because we're always going to have them. And you always understand there's always one, right? There's always one who wants to cause trouble, or there's always one that you identify as these characters. Yep. All right, good. All right, we got 2 minutes to spare you all. So I just wanted to share with you all the you'll be able to watch this replay, identify and navigate workplace personalities, which I think is so important for us to understand how to deal with them. And if you are just now discovering us, we are Black Career Women's Network. You can check us out at bcwnetwork.com. And then I also have a guide I want to share with you all. It's a 6 power moves that every Black woman should know. And so this is the link to that. And I think what I'm going to do is try to see if I can add this in the LinkedIn chat box and see if I can add that for you all. That way you all can download these 6 power moves that I think are so important for us to understand. Oh, the name of the book is the Little Black Book of Success, The Laws of Leadership for Black Women is what that is, the name of the book. And you can go to Amazon and find it. And then I'm going to actually put the link to the our 6 power moves every Black woman should know. I'm going to put that link in our chat box so you all can download it. I think I'll put it in here now. Let me know if you get it. And I hope that link, there it is. You still should be able to see it. And it should be working. Make sure it's working. Yep, link is working. All right, so download that. It's the 6 power moves every black woman should know. And that gives you, and it talks a little bit about some of these in terms of political savvy, but it's just a great way to stay connected, with that. So again, Marsha Haygood is one of the co-authors for that book. If you want to, Diane, you're so welcome. Great session. Nice to meet you too, and discovering us. please go. And right now, our I know our mobile app is actually under a redesign, so you won't be able to access it right now. But please download the guide that we just sent. Stay connected. That way you'll be on our email list, and we'll see your notification of when our app is going to be back open for after it's redesigned. And you can stay connected in our community. All right. You're so welcome, Don, for confirming it. Oh, absolutely. I think it's important that we understand that these individual characters is something we always have to be on guard for in the workplace, unfortunately. But it's a great way to to make sure that we are moving with power and that we are positioning ourselves in the right way for the elevation of our own careers and the type of work that we're trying to do as we exercise our gifts and talents while we do it. All right, you all, it is 101. I want to go ahead and give you back your time. Thank you for joining me for today's Career Tip Tuesday. We will see you in 2 weeks, you all, and enjoy the rest of your work week. Bye, everyone.